All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on near-miss incidents. My name is Mackenzie Keller with the CSD Pool, and I am joined by our Senior Risk Control Consultant, Kyle Brown. Today, we'll be going over what near-miss reporting is, what are the benefits of near-miss reporting, how to report a near-miss incident, and best practices and reporting tools. If you have any questions, please put those in the chat, and we'll be able to touch on those during the presentation and also have a set portion of time at the end to address any remaining questions. And also, as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. That recording will be distributed sometime later today. So if for whatever reason you need to step away and want to come back to it later, you will have the opportunity to do so. With that, I will turn it over to Kyle Brown. Kyle?
Alrighty, thank you so much for the introduction, Mackenzie. As she said, today we're going to be talking about moving forward after a near miss. What this is really going to accumulate to is going to be talking about the whole gamut of near misses, start to finish. So first, we're going to define what a near miss is. It might not be as cut and dry as you would think it would be. There are definitely some nuances, and we're going to go into that. We're going to explain why near miss reporting matters, because I think that oftentimes there is that misconception that, oh, nothing actually happened. Let's just count ourselves lucky and move on with our lives. But there are so much more to near miss reporting that we can go into. And that kind of ties us into reviewing our benefits for special districts. So how does near miss reporting and analyzing these near misses help us as special districts protect our assets, protect our employees, protect our public? Next, we're going to go into the outline reporting process. So how do you report a near miss? What should this structure look like? And why is it important to have a structure for near miss reporting? And then we're going to share some best practices slash tools that we have. They're also going to be sprinkled in throughout the session just to keep things lively. So without further ado, we're actually going to dive in to what a near miss is. The standard definition for a near miss is an unplanned event that did not result in an injury or damage. There's a second part to that definition that I did not put on this just because I want to say it and really have us kind of dig in on it. The second part of the definition is, but it did not due to luck, preventative measures taken, or a slight change in position or timing. Some key takeaways that I want to take from this is had the potential to cause harm but did not. If you look at the definition of a near miss, and then I want you guys to think of the definition of an injury or a property loss. That definition at the top, an unplanned event that did not result in an injury or damage. The only difference between a near miss and an injury or property damage is the word not. So when we think of a near miss, we think that it's still unplanned. Nobody wakes up in the morning and plans to have a near miss, just like nobody wakes up in the morning and plans to get injured or to have a piece of equipment damaged. Also, resulting in injury or damage. So the potential to result in injury or damage. Those are the key things. It's an unplanned event and it has the potential to cause injury or damage. Now, what I want us to really think of is whereas you have an injury or damage, it's something that happened and now you have to deal with it. You have to make measures to resolve that. If somebody's injured, you have to take that person to the hospital. They have to get medical treatment, whatever those steps may be. If a piece of property or equipment is damaged, you have to take steps to correct that. You have to fix that piece of equipment. Your operation may be shut down. But the nice thing for you guys when we're thinking about a near miss is that didn't happen. It had the potential to cause that injury. It had that potential to shut down your operations, but it didn't. So what really makes near misses nice and why we should be utilizing them is it gives you the opportunity to prevent future incidents. So instead of having a fire that you need to put out, maybe theoretically and actually, now you have a learning moment. You can see a gap in your system and you can make changes so that something in the future doesn't happen. One other thing that I want to say about near misses, and this is where it's not as simple as that definition. You, as special districts, can set the parameters. Our loss control team, we work with all types of special districts across the board: fire, water and sanitation, libraries, parks and rec. I'm not going to list all of them out, but when we think about that, everybody's going to have a little bit of different parameters for the near misses. That's actually something that we did last year. Is we sat down with a fire district and they brought up an excellent point. What is considered a near miss or even a loss for another entity would just be a normal day for them. So, whereas a burning building would definitely be considered damage to another district, a firefighter going into a burning building would not be considered a near miss because it's in their job. They're trained to do that. They're actually going to do it. So, that's why they would set their parameters. So, their near miss would be: is somebody not properly approaching a scene? Is somebody not taking proper precautions? Is somebody not setting up proper perimeters? So, that's how you as a district can set the parameters. It's almost, excuse me, an easier way to say that would be: what do you allow on your normal day-to-day basis compared to what do you want to prevent? Moving on to the next page, we're going to go into a little bit more details on what is the difference between a near miss and an injury. I always like to give examples for some of these. I like to give the cord example because I think it's pretty universal across all of our districts. Everybody has cords somewhere in their district. There's a cord across the walkway. You're walking across, your foot slips, you trip on it, you're able to regain your footing. That is a near miss. Whereas an injury would be: you're walking across that cord, you slip, you do not catch your balance, and then you fall, you hurt your knee. Even if it's still first aid, that is still technically considered an injury. But what we want people to think about is that near miss, that cord. Even though you tripped and fell, let's think back to those first things I said. It was still unplanned, and it still had the potential to cause harm or injury. So that's what makes that a near miss. But something we want to think about is: near misses can often be overlooked because if you trip on a cord, you hurt yourself, you're going to talk to the proper people. You might go seek medical attention. You might seek first aid. That's going to get reported, and there's going to be a more thorough, in-depth investigation process as to why it happened and what we can do to prevent it in the future. Whereas, let's be honest, if you tripped over somebody's cord in their office, you might just say, hey, clean up your office and go about your day. And it may never go any further than that. But that's why near miss reporting is so important, because if you report that, then maybe a company or a district-wide memo comes out and they say all cords need to be placed under these parameters. So we're using the near misses as a teaching moment. And something else I want us to think of. So we've already laid out two similarities between injuries and near misses. One, they both have the potential to cause that injury or damage. They're unplanned. And three, it's something that we're often looking at every day. They don't happen outside of a vacuum. And we're really going to cover that during the next slide. But some things I want us to think about too is: another reason to report a near miss is it's so much easier to correct. Let's continue on with this scenario. I tripped. I reported it as a near miss. That cord gets fixed. That cost our district virtually no money. Now, I tripped. I caught myself, I fell, I ripped an outlet out of the wall, and now I need some kind of medical attention. Do you see how much more expensive that became? Something as little as a cord across the floor just became a big incident for the district. And another thing too is it's key input for our risk management. So our risk management would be our safety professionals, our safety committees. They can take the information from near misses and they can see, based on the near misses we see, this is where we need to work with. Maybe we need to develop a training plan on how to organize your office or how to look for slips, trips, and falls. Whereas if this was not reported, that's as far as it would go, and nobody would ever really have any further information to give about it or input. So, why near misses matter? I already briefly hinted on this. Incidents rarely happen without warning. There's always some sort of precursor. I'm going to have a diagram up in a couple slides to kind of visualize this, but when we're talking about slipping on that cord, how many times did somebody walk over that cord before their foot caught it? One example I'll give from something that we see in a lot of our districts, we have excavations. Unfortunately, every now and again, there are excavation collapses. So, a near miss would be an excavation collapses. Nobody was inside of it. Everybody came out fine, but they now have to redig that excavation. Now, how many times is an excavation going to collapse before somebody inevitably is inside of it? Whereas if we took it as a near miss, we reported this type of soil collapse under these current conditions, then we can plan, we can adjust policy. So we are eliminating the potential for somebody to be inside an excavation whenever it collapses. It's also going to often reveal hidden hazards before the injury because that is something really interesting too, is no matter how many safety professionals or people you have looking out for things, our workplaces change, environmental factors change. But the more we're looking for near misses, the more we're going to be able to see and prepare for those things. So, one example I get from this is one of my previous endeavors in life. They used to use an oxygen acetylene torch multiple times a day, and they would use it to cut steel. They were using it in outdoor conditions where the hose would crack, it would fray. So, long story short, one morning, somebody was turning on one of the tanks. They heard a hissing sound coming from the hose. What did they do? They turned off the tank. They went and reported it to us. We developed a procedure for inspecting hoses every morning. We put some safeguards on the hoses so that they were less likely to fray and crack. So, as you see there, let's think about the cost that happened. I maybe spent $300 on those additions to the hoses and maybe 4 hours revising policy. Whereas, let's say 2 months down the road, somebody had not been paying attention, turned it on, same hissing sound, but they were talking to somebody else. They had earbuds in and they turned on the other one. There could have been a potential explosion. Now, let's think about the cost differences between dealing with a tank explosion versus just reporting something and creating events to help solve those. But when we, just to recap, when we're talking about it's going to show hidden hazards, that's not something that we were all thinking of. And it showed us something and we were able to correct it. Whereas if not, we might have just been doing it after a terrible, terrible injury. And it provides that learning without injury. We learned a lot that day about hose health. I dove into this big, long subject of figuring it out. And that's what we really need to use this for, is learning. Even if it's something we don't think there is a solution, you can put it out to the rest of your team. You can do a little bit of research and you might find a solution you didn't know was there. Something else I want to really specify here, near miss reporting is not a silver bullet. We cannot prevent everything in every scenario, but we can catch as much stuff as we can, do our due diligence, and maybe we can minimize the impact on the stuff that we can't completely prevent. And that's where we're supporting that continuous improvement. So if we know something's brought to our attention, we might come up with a slight fix in month one, but 9, 10 months down the road, after research and we're doing continuous improvement, we're talking to people who actually work around these operations, maybe the actual final solution comes. So some common near miss examples that we see, and they're pretty universal, and I will give you guys a little bit of a hint here too. They often coincide with common injury causes. So slip, trips, and falls. This is a big one because it doesn't matter what kind of district you're in, what you're doing, we always have walking, we're always moving about our locations and facilities. And that brings into consideration, you're going to hear me use the slip, trip, and fall example quite a bit, just because that is the biggest injury that we see within the CSD pool, and it's also the biggest injury across all industries. But we want to think about context for near miss reporting, because one thing I really want to discourage about, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit too, is we don't want to near miss report just to say we're near miss reporting. So if you slip over a cord in the hallway, that is worth reporting a near miss over. But if sometimes you're a little clumsy and you trip over your own feet, is that worth reporting a near miss about? Possibly, but maybe not as beneficial as correcting something like a cord. Or if your shoes are untied, you could report that as a near miss because then you can train other people, make sure your shoes are tied, double check your shoes every time you get up. You really want to see, is what I'm reporting as a near miss going to add value and help protect people along the way? Another one is backing, vehicle backing incidents with no contact. I'm sure we've all seen it, a close call while we're backing, especially for our districts who have larger vehicles. If you're backing a large piece of equipment and you back up and you say, wow, I was only 3 inches away from hitting that sidewalk, from hitting that car, maybe it's time I go out and get a spotter. You reporting that near miss, saying you need a spotter, is preventing a future backing injury. One example of this, I, it's a little funny in my opinion, is not just for vehicles, but for equipment. An example I see all the time is forklifts. So you districts with a forklift, go out and look after you watch this video. Are people reporting near misses or even damages with a forklift? People say no, our people are well trained. We never have any incidents. So go look at the back of your forklift. If there are any scratches, dings, or anything like that, that means that there was some kind of event that was not reported. And maybe there is a little bit more work to do than we think of. And it's not only behaviorally, sometimes it's just equipment malfunction. So I'm going to give two examples here. So I know a lot of our park and rec districts, we have a lot of pools, and almost everybody has water lines. So if you're walking around a facility looking inside a maintenance room and you start to see water dripping, report that as a near miss. Because if you don't report that as a near miss, is it days, weeks, months before that little dripping becomes a catastrophic line break or the potential for freeze, especially during this year whenever we have a lot of freeze thaw cycles? Another example I give to that is breaker boxes. Something that we offer some of our members is thermography scans, where we take infrared scanning and we look inside your breaker boxes to make sure nothing's overheating. So if we're looking at one of the breaker boxes and one of the breakers is red hot, that is a sign that it's about to fail or cause a fire. So that's a near miss. You fix it, you go about your day. But if that IR scan's never done, the breaker fails, potentially causes a fire, the district potentially loses a entire building or a portion of a building. So when we're thinking about the cost benefit analysis of a near miss reporting and going through processes to do that, how much did we save by correcting that small near miss compared to replacing a building? Next, exposure to hazards. Um, First example I'll give is a water and sanitation district. You go out, you're fixing a line break, you're exposed to the water inside of a sanitation line. That could be a near miss if nothing happens about it, but it's still something you want to report because even though there might not be a perfect way to protect yourself from that during a break today, maybe it's something that somebody could develop or a piece of equipment that the district could buy to help protect you in the future. Whereas if you say nothing about it, everybody goes about their day and nobody really thinks about it until it becomes an injury. The other example I want to think about here is back to our fire folks. And when we think about the parameters of near miss reporting, exposure to smoke. If you're a firefighter and you're responding to a call, you're in your full gear. You have your SCBA on. You're exposed to smoke. Is that a near miss? No. You knew smoke was coming. You prepared for it. You wore the proper equipment. Whereas this kind of tying into our procedural breakdown. If you are not wearing your proper gear, you're on the scene and you're exposed to smoke. That just became a near miss or possibly an injury depending on how you're exposed to it. So if you see somebody at the scene without gear on, you say something to them, they go put their helmet on, that's a near miss because they weren't actually exposed, but they had the potential for the exposure and the injury, but it didn't actually happen. Moving on, one of the biggest benefits is it's going to reduce injuries and property damage, and it's going to lower our claims frequency. So we're going to go back to that court example just because that's my favorite one to give. There's a cord across your office door. You have 30 people in and out over the course of 10 days. So that's 300 people. Now, out of those 300 people who go in and out of your office, 30 of them are going to trip on that cord, just based on basic statistics, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And typically, out of those 30 people, somebody's not going to be able to recover and they're going to trip and fall and injure themselves. But where the power of near miss reporting comes in, let's say I'm the first person to go into your office. I see that cord and I say, hey, Mackenzie, let's find a different way to set up that cord. Let's maybe tape it, move it somewhere else. So, you know what just happened? Those other 299 times never occurred. That means that the 30 people who tripped and did not fall never happened. And that also means that the other injury never happened. So that's where we're really thinking of the power of near miss reporting. Another thing I really love about it is we say here improves employee engagement. Because if you're encouraged to report near misses, you're encouraged to report things that you see in your workplace that seem unsafe, that don't seem like they should be, it's going to do two things. One, you're going to trust the district more. You're going to know that they have your best interest in mind and at heart. And two, you're going to start programming yourself to think about different types of near misses. And it's something you do have to teach yourself. So I often really suggest some type of training for near miss reporting for everybody within a team, even if it's just watching a video. Go out and look, say, where could I trip? What could possibly be hazardous in my day-to-day things? And the more employees do this, the better they're going to look at it. So when that one off the wall thing comes up, they're going to be able to adjust and they're going to tell you about it before it happens 300 times and we have an injury from it. Another reason is it's going to identify a trend before a loss occurs. So let's say that you have a bad spot in the parking lot or it's just icing over constantly. What can you do? Well, we're not sure. But if nobody says anything, let's just say 10 people are the first people to show up in the morning. They walk past the ice. Oh, wow, that's slippery. Let's go about our day. That 11th person comes. Nobody's told them. There's been no near miss reporting. Nobody's tried to throw salt on it. Nobody's even put up a sign. That 11th person comes through. They've got a busy day. They're prepping for a meeting right offhand. They're not even paying attention to where their feet are. They slip and fall. Now, let's backtrack to those first 10. All it would have taken is one of them. And it's also their responsibility to help protect the rest of their team because I'm sure that we would all want that ourselves. So back to that first 10. First one walks over the ice. Well, that's bad. I'm going to go get ice melt. Guess what? Employee number 11 never got injured. We're going to put up a sign. That person never slipped. And this isn't just for our employees. This also goes to members of the public who may be walking in and out of our facility. And it doesn't have to be ice. There's a number of things that can cause near misses. It could even be an uneven sidewalk that would need to be corrected. Whereas if we're not training our team to notice those things and point them out to us, we may never know until it's a loss. And one of the last things is it's going to strengthen our safety culture. Whenever people know that their buy-in is accepted, when they know that their opinion's valued and being followed up upon, that's when they start to build that culture. They know that you care about safety as our district leadership, and that's going to make them care about safety. And they're going to start telling you different things that they maybe wouldn't have before. And that's one of the big benefits to near miss reporting, other than just reducing injuries and claims, is we're building that culture. We're kind of setting that expectation of what we want our team to do to protect them slash to protect ourselves. One last thing that's a little off topic, I always like to tie our webinars in with real world experiences. Near miss reporting is just not for the district. Near miss can be done in any aspect of your life. One example I'll give, let's say you have some lawn furniture on your back patio. A windstorm comes through because there's not been any wind in Colorado this year, and it blows your chair over. That's a near miss. How do you respond to that near miss? Well, you take your chair inside or you put something on it to keep it from blowing away. You prevented the loss of that chair leaving your property or getting severely damaged. Whereas if you saw the chair blow over and you're like, oh, wow, that's unfortunate, I'm going to go inside, You did not respond to the near miss, and you may wake up to the next morning -1 chair. Moving forward, specifically, what are our benefits for special districts? First off, it's going to protect our employees and our public. So, two different things here. As special districts, we answer to the public, so their best interest always has to be at heart for ourselves. And this kind of ties in with everything we do, but as special districts, our fiduciary responsibility is to protect district assets. And our employees should always be our number one asset because without our employees, we do not function as a special district and everything we do ceases to operate. So we need to be protecting our employees and not just from injury, but we need to be protecting their equipment because if their equipment is constantly destroyed from something not being addressed, that's going to reduce morale. Or I always give this example too, specifically to protecting our employees. Who wants to go to work somewhere where they know that they are constantly being injured? The last four people in your position have been injured, you're the fifth. That's not going to make you feel very good to show up to work the next day. But if you know, well, there was something reported, nobody was injured, so we took care of it. Let us know if you see anything because we want to stay on top of those things. Your entire attitude about your well being and how much you're valued within the organization has completely changed. Next, it's going to support budget stability. I've given this example numerous times throughout this presentation, but it's really worth saying. It is so much cheaper to fix a near miss than it is to replace something that is damaged, to wait for an employee to heal and deal with all the medical care that may come with that. And not just bottom line budget, but we have to think about our secondary cost, timeouts, people covering for them, maybe even have part-time people in. It's also going to improve our operational ability. So thinking back to our water lines busting, I know a lot of us districts, we have different types of pump, we have different kind of equipment that we are required to utilize in order to fulfill our requirements to the public, whatever it may be. Now, noticing little things like a weird sound within the machine, that could be a near miss because you're catching it and you're going to have something repaired before it becomes a catastrophic breakdown. And if we can do that, so you maybe only have 4 hours of downtime compared to 4 weeks of downtime, think about how much you just saved your district. It's also going to demonstrate due diligence, something we like to bring up in a lot of our webinars, and I think it also applies to near miss reporting, is at the end of the day, whenever that once in a career disaster does strike, do you want to be the district leadership with a microphone in your face saying, oops, we should have planned more for this? Or do you want to be the one saying, we have a great near miss reporting program. We're extremely proud of our team. They saw these signs coming up 6 months ago, so we took steps. So, whereas we could have had scenario A where we were shut down for a month, we have this scenario where we were able to see it immediately, correct it, and move on about our day. Or we'll do the other side of that, not just the equipment breakdown side. Nobody reported the fact that the rest of our team wasn't using lockout tagout. There was no misreported that somebody went in an area. So therefore we could not train, we could not come up with a proper solution. And now we have somebody in the hospital who's missing 3 fingers. Or we saw this, we trained for it, and now you were all the better for it. And it's also going to align with our risk management goals because our risk management goals are to find and identify trends. So we ask what poses the biggest harm to our district? Is it employee injury? Is it equipment breakdown? And can we look at some of these near misses to see what's our biggest risk to employee injury based on our near misses? Is it that slip, trip, and falls? Is it people not following procedures? And what can we do to prevent this from becoming an actual injury? Moving on to the next. One thing I do want to say, I have kind of set this up in a perfect world that once you lay out a near miss reporting program, everybody's going to be completely on board and it's just going to go off without a hitch. As we kind of transition gears here a little bit, we're going to start talking about some best practices for reporting near misses. And one thing is building that culture. I mentioned it earlier, it's going to help you build safety culture, but The day you say, hey, I'm going to do a near miss program, it doesn't mean that everybody's going to completely buy in and your culture is going to be at 100%. It's very likely that people are going to be resistant. You get that mindset, we've done it this way for so many years, I'm going to be fine, or hesitant. Because unfortunately, based on stigmas, other past experiences from other jobs, people may be a little more hesitant to report because they think they might get in trouble. They might be blamed for that. So, some of the most important things is to help alleviate that. And I've got some fun activities that I'll throw in at the end that I think really encourage near misreporting and some things to be cautious of. The belief that nothing happened really goes back into that mindset of, oh, we've done it this way for 10 years. Nothing's ever happened. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be just fine. And to that, I always reply, if you walk over that cord 1,000 times and nothing happens, that doesn't mean that the 1,001st time is going to happen. That's actually why safety professionals are employed, is for those 1 in 1,000 things. Something else that we need to be very mindful of when we're thinking about near miss reporting is time constraints. And this is just like our parameters for near miss reporting. This is going to be different for every district. You know your team, you know their tolerance. If you're doing a near miss report and it's very quick and simple, what happens? Why did it happen? What goes next? Are they going to fill that out? Or do you have a team that's going to be very studious and they're filling out and they're going to document everything? The second one's always best, but maybe you need to train them up to that. And you need to set those expectations because let's just be honest. If your form starting off is going to take somebody to 20 minutes to fill out and they have to ask four people what this means, what that means, are they going to fill it out? No, I wouldn't fill that out either. So we need to develop something for them that's actually going to be as convenient as possible with still getting as many details. Luckily, I've got some examples coming up, and we also do have an entire handout at the CSD pool that you can email us afterwards for, and we will send that over. Another one is lack of feedback. As district management, or even somebody who's part of the safety committee who's responsible for that, one of the worst things you can do in any program, but especially near miss reporting, is lack of feedback. If people take the time and they put their trust in you and they fill out everything and you do nothing, there is absolutely nothing that's going to kill that morale faster than that. So you have to make sure you follow up. And just to be clear, not every time it's going to be that correction they ask. Maybe they were working on the side of the roof and they saw the near miss that they swayed a little bit towards the edge whenever the wind blew, and their suggested correction is a $400,000 railing system. That might not be practical, but you at least need to come back to them with some kind of feedback. Next is our unclear reporting process. I see this plenty of times, not really with any districts, but just in past lives. We need you guys to report near misses. Okay, how do we do it? Well, your department should have a form. Everything should be standardized within your district. There should be a completely streamlined process. So, how do employees report? We're going to get into that in the next page. What happens after they report? Do their supervisors look at it? Do managers look at it? Do you have a safety team or a safety committee that looks at it? So these are things that need to be documented. How does it get submitted? Just make sure everything is clear because, again, everybody has so many things going on in their lives, so many things that we're looking for time and time again. If it's something that we're trying to do the right thing, but it just became so much more challenging, they're not going to follow through with it. So think about your team and think about what they're going to do. One suggestion I always have is to build champions. So your safety committee is always a great example for this. So ideally, our safety committee should have one member per department. Have that person be your near miss reporting champion. Oh, well, Kyle, I went out and there's some ice in the parking lot, or this machine was buzzing the way it shouldn't have. I just wanted to let you know about it. Great. Let's sit down. Let's fill out this form together. I'm going to sit there and make sure that you understand everything that's being filled out. And me personally, I'm going to take it back to the safety committee or the district manager or whomever you decide in that process. So that person just felt that much more valued about that process. They realized how seriously you took it. And from there, they are going to make much more effort in the future. Going back to that first part, though, where people may be hesitant or just downright resistive of reporting near misses and maybe even injuries too. That is something that I think is a hidden benefit here. If you have a district that is re encouraging a near miss reporting process, that means if an injury does happen, it's going to be reported sooner. And that's exactly what we want. We don't want people to try to hide things from us. We want to be very transparent because their ultimate health is on us as the district, and we want to do everything we can to protect them. So, create a just reporting culture. This big one here is focus on learning, not blame. And I know that this is so easy to do. I sometimes even find myself into this. So, if there is ice all across the front walkway, people keep falling on it. There's not proper PPE available, so I wasn't able to wear my glasses into an eyeglass protected area. I reported as a near miss, and all I say is, well, Mackenzie should have done this. I don't know why she didn't do this. Instead of playing the name game back and forth, let's focus it on learning. Everybody learns the importance of restocking safety glasses, where safety glasses goes. Because if you just turn it into a name game, you're right back to that square one where people don't want to report because they don't want it to become a thing. So rather than targeting a single person, a group of people, let's make it a district-wide learning option. Just like the cord in the office where I went back to. We're not going to say this employee had a cord in their office, I almost tripped. It would be a FYI for everybody. Check your office for cords. If you have one in this position, let's fix it. Because we're not singling out people and we're kind of building that layer of trust, which is exactly what we're looking to do when we're reporting near misses. If discipline is necessary, it should be done separately from the near miss reporting. So an example I think of this, somebody entered a lockout tagout scenario. So they're working on a piece of equipment to where if it were to come on, it could seriously damage them just based on where their body is in reference to that piece of equipment. And let's say that person is properly trained, they knew everything, they cut a corner. They should, and that person does need discipline from that. It should be done completely separately from the near miss reporting. So there should be a training moment. Everybody gets a here's our proper lockout tagout procedures and what's expected of you. Oh, and by the way, Bill did this. Let's all point our fingers at Bill. No, that's absolutely not what we want to do. We want to make sure everything is very separate because, again, we don't want to put that stigma with near miss reporting. Encourage your leadership participation. That could be another thing. Maybe your safety champions are your department heads. Maybe every year you pick as a safety committee 5 or 10 near misses that are the most trending, that have the most potential to cause harm, and you send those back to your leadership, and they get to pick 3 or 4 of them, or they get to have a specific message on those. Because it goes back to, I believe we talked about this when we talked about building safety culture or even safety trainings. If your leader doesn't care about it, why should you? If that leader walks over that cord in the back of the office 60 times a day, why should I care about it? But if you as a leader, you come to your team, you say, I've been looking at these near misses. This is the one we're going to tackle. This is how we're going to do it because I feel that this is the biggest risk to our districts. Wow. Our district manager actually looks at what we're doing and they actually care. That's phenomenal. Or, second part to that, they talk about a near miss that they saw and reported. If you're a leader and boo, your people know that you're reporting near misses, they're like, okay, I've got to step up my game. I see a lot more stuff than he does, and I haven't reported any. Next is acknowledgement. Acknowledge people who are reporting near misses. You can do quite a bit from this. It could even just be here's a great near miss report that McKinsey reported, and here's what we did about it. Thank you so much. You're keeping your team safe, McKinsey. It could be something as simple as that. It could be picking one a month to do that with. Here's one of my favorite things to do with near misses is a gift card. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Maybe a $25 gift card to buy them lunch once a month. Out of every month, every 3 months, 6 months, you set the parameters at your program. You pick the best near miss that is going to reduce the risk the most within your district. And whoever submitted that, they get a gift card. And guess what you've just done? You've built that acknowledgement. And now people want to do it. They're like, well, I want a free lunch. I know there's tons of stuff in my work area. I'm going to start reporting near misses. But the last part is crucial for that. We just don't want people to say, printer broke, water leaking. Well, why do you think the water is leaking? What can we do about that moving forward? And there's really some components that we'll get to in 2 slides about that, but we really just want to share those lessons learned. And since we're talking about building a culture, I'm going to share a lesson that I have learned over my career as far as near miss reporting. One thing that I strongly suggest we stay away from is quotas. In a past life, it was my job to process near misses for 1,400 employees. And the company's policy was every location, there's over 100 locations, does 5 near misses a month. Doesn't matter, they need to do 5. And you know how many near misses I read that said things, what happened? Deer ran across the road. Why did it happen? Was driving. What did you do to solve it? Slowed down. Now, is anybody actually gaining any benefit from that? No. So when we're talking about creating a near miss program within our district, I want us to really push on quality over quantity. It's better to have one well-written near miss report that's got actionable items that we as a district can take to protect ourselves compared to just 500 goobity gops. And you need to train your employees on those expectations. Like if it's not something that's actually feasible or an actual near miss, then we don't want to see it. Very much similar to I was walking down the hallway, nothing was in the hallway. I just happened to trip on my own feet. That's not really providing anybody any benefits. So we want to set the expectation if it has to be something that's actually actionable. So what should be reported? Unsafe conditions. Here's something that it's a near miss that I hear a lot from districts. It's concerning, so it's really important we pay attention to that is if you work for a district that has excavations, especially if they're done by a third-party contractor, and you see an excavation that's not a safe condition, that's a near miss. Report that and get it fixed. And even if it is somebody within your district who's digging it, you should still report that. Unsafe acts or behaviors, people not wearing PPE. Something I failed to mention earlier, but I think it's really important when we think of unsafe acts or behaviors. Sometimes, whenever we start digging into these processes, the root cause of that unsafe act or behavior might fall back on us as management. Well, why was that individual working on that piece of equipment without using lockout tagout? Well, he's technically in training, but his supervisor called off and he's not had the training yet, but we needed the work done. That's not on that employee. They were doing what was expected of them from the company. And sometimes it's having those hard conversations with ourselves. Are we actually the ones who are using these unsafe behaviors? And what the nice thing about the near miss reporting is it's a way for us to reflect and see if we can improve, because it's not just about improving our front line or around our offices. It's about improving our own behaviors too. Next is our vehicle equipment or issues. We want people to report things like backup alarms. Maybe the brakes weren't working as well. I have an example from, again, a past life, commercial motor vehicle. They're required to do pre-drive inspections every single day. This driver obviously did not, and you ask me how we know that because their fire extinguisher fell off the truck and flew through somebody's windshield. Had they done a pre-shift inspection, they would have noticed that the bracket was loose, aka near miss. And that could have been solved without our damage. So again, that's why we're wanting to dive into those things. Process or procedure failures. So I think of a water and sanitation district, a bar screen, not collecting materials. What happens then? We have things flow into our system that could possibly cause an issue. Whereas if somebody would have saw a slight malfunction and reported it, that would have been a near miss. Or if they saw some things flowing through, they reported it as a near miss, fixed it, everything went well, nobody reported it, everything backs up and we break a system. Another one is environmental or situational hazards. I always think of a thunderstorm. If you're working and you have a notification system on your phone, very similar to Red Alert or OnSolve, you could very easily see there's a thunderstorm coming. I need to get back to the office. Could that be a near miss? Possibly. Or let's say your phone wasn't on you, so you didn't see it. That could have been the near miss because while you did not get caught up in a tornado, did not get struck by lightning, that potential was still there. Next, we're going to talk about how to report a near miss. It should be done as soon as possible. We want to describe what happened in very much detail. I was always taught when reporting any kind of thing, we want everything down to your underwear collar. That's a joke. Don't actually put that in there, but as many details as you would think, even if it's my right arm almost got caught, that could be important instead of just saying my arm almost got caught. Identify the location and what activity you were doing. Maybe we need to create a job safety analysis for that job. Note any contributing factors. Maybe I didn't feel adequately trained, I was under a tight deadline. And most importantly, out of any near miss program, I think this is the number one thing, folks. Suggestions for corrective actions. Because if we're just collecting near misses to collect near misses, we're wasting our own time, we're wasting the district's time, we're wasting everybody's time. The whole purpose of doing a near miss is to get that corrective action so we can fix something before it becomes an injury. So I did say this is really detailed, but I want you to think back to my point. Is it easy enough that somebody's actually going to fill it out? So to summarize this, I think we really just need to budget it to three questions. One, what happened? What was my near miss? Why did it happen? What were our contributing factors? And what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? That's really all you need in a near miss form. So here's an example of one of the forms we hand out. Some key things are time, date, location. You can make it anonymous if you'd like to, but especially if you're going to be rewarding people, it's important to have names on there. What was your task or operation? Was there any kind of vehicles or equipment? Were you wearing anything that you shouldn't have? What was the potential severity? If this near miss did result in an injury or damage, just like when we were talking about the definition, what would that severity have been? And what immediate actions were taken? Did you slow down for the deer? Or did you go and get ice melt so the rest of your team walking in the building would not slip on the ice as well? There are a lot of forms. There's paper forms, there are mobile online forms. Vector EHS, one of our partners, they have a near miss reporting module that I think is great. And the nice thing about that is people can put it on their phones. Everybody's got their phones on them nowadays. So when they say a near miss, snap a picture, type it up, submit it, that's done. So when we're thinking about ease of use, that's a big benefit. But if you're somewhere where maybe paper works best for you, or you want to ease in with paper before you dive into a system, that's also okay. We have templates for that too. Our big thing is that you're utilizing the materials. And most importantly, whatever you decide to use, train your folks. How do we want it filled out? Who do you give it to if it is a paper form? Who does it go to if it's submitted electronically? Even though they don't need to submit it to them, they should still know the process because we're pitching involvement at this point. Next, here's a long-term benefit of near miss. It's collective data. So just like our injury trends, once you have so much time collecting near misses, you're going to see, wow, we had 30 slip, trip, and fall near misses. We had 6 equipment breakdowns. Maybe we need to focus on slips, trips, and falls first because based on the 30 slips, trips, and falls, we're in line for an injury. But if we can get that down to 6 next year, good task for a safety committee, then we maybe just eliminated an injury. So we want to identify the trends and repeat hazards. So what are things that we're seeing consistently? We want to prioritize our corrective actions, share our findings across departments. Nothing we ever do should be kind of hidden because chances are if we're seeing it in one area of the district, we're seeing it in others. And I take that a step further. I encourage you, if you work closely with other districts or other organizations, share your near misses, especially if they have similar operations. They might have insight that you don't. And that insight is us building to prevent the injury. Integrate it into your training. Tell them where the near misses are coming from and do a slips, trips, and falls training. Do a hazard recognition training so that we can learn to spot near misses. And it's going to support our risk control planning because when we see we have so many different injuries and things coming up, we can plan for that a little better. Next, our leadership role. Set clear expectations. Make sure that the program is developed to meet your district's needs and your employees' constraints. Model reporting behavior. Don't walk past near misses. Report them. Tell people you report them. Brag about it. That way they start bragging about it as well. Make sure that you have an allocation for fixes, even if it is somebody painting a walkway that's uneven. Again, going back to one of the most important things is to follow up whenever your team tells you about a near miss, even if it's not the answer they want. Going back to that handrail on the roof. Sorry, it's not in the budget this year, but instead we came up with ABC solution, or we're going to put it, just communicate with them because the worst thing you can do is just get all these near misses to sit because eventually you're going to stop getting near misses. Communicate your outcomes. Again, if it's a great outcome, make sure you advertise that. We fixed this because of a near miss, but communicate the things you can't do either. And reinforce accountability. Um, I mentioned the gift card for the best near misses. One that I always think is fun too. If you have vehicles that require those pre-shift inspections like I was talking about, what if you, as district management, put a gift card on that fire extinguisher? Fire extinguisher doesn't fall off. That was a very unfortunate example, but they come back, you look at the truck. They took the gift card. That's great. You know they're doing the pre-shift inspections. Congratulate them. They didn't find the gift card. Show them what they missed out on, and I bet they're going to start doing their inspections every time after that. So you can use these near misses to do that. And them not doing an inspection is technically a near miss because they could have missed something that would have caused damage or injury. So, as we wrap up and move into questions, some of our key takeaways. Near misses, they have that potential to cause injury and they're unplanned, but they didn't cause injury. So use that as an early warning sign. And it's going to prevent our serious incidents. And the more we do this, the more we're going to drive our participation and we're going to build that culture. Because again, this just isn't going to magically happen, but it's something we want to build too. Simple systems work best. Even if it is an online platform like Vector EHS, you can build that incredibly simple. So you could just have on the app, there's 3 questions. Why did it happen? What can I do to make sure, or excuse me, what happened? Why did it happen? And what can I do to make sure it doesn't happen again? And the last one, every report's an opportunity. Use it as an opportunity. Don't be punitive. Encourage your team and move forward with that. And with that, I will turn it over to questions and Mackenzie.
Awesome. Okay. I think chat might have been disabled for some of the webinar, but it should be back on now. So if you had questions that you weren't able to put in, you're more than welcome to do those now. While people are typing those out, Kyle, I've got a question for you.
Absolutely.
Um, so spotting near misses obviously is a very important part of reporting them. What do you do when you're looking for things, but it's just, you walk around the same office every day, the same setup? You start to get used to problems over time. Is there any way that you can kind of shift your perspective to be able to catch things that you might not notice otherwise or that have become a normal part of the workplace?
Yes, I think part of that. 2, sit through a training. We at the CSD pool, we offer a hazard recognition training that really trains you to look up at the ceiling, look down at the floor, look down at all the walls to really reconfigure your brain to look for that. The other option is to get a third party. Um, loss control team from the CSD pool, we do complimentary walkthroughs, non-punitive, so we can spot those things. And the example I always give, and you brought up such a good point, Mackenzie, is it's so easy. I even say, as somebody who does this for a living, you can walk into my house and spot things for that exact same reason. So get a fresh set of eyes, get a fresh perspective.
All right. Awesome. It looks like we do have one question in the chat asking for a copy of the near miss examples that we came up with. Absolutely. If you want to see the presentation again, like I said, recording will be sent out, or if you want any of the materials that we've mentioned during the presentation, you're more than welcome to reach out to us at safety@cscpool.org. And I will go ahead and put that in the chat as well so that you can copy paste that. .org. There you go. Or if you're looking for other ways to contact us, you can also go to our website at www.csdpool.org. Um, Looking in the chat, I'm not seeing any other questions. So I think we should be all right. Kyle, any closing remarks today?
Um, yes. So, how do you improve your safety call, or how do you prevent the next injury? It's by studying the injury that never happened, aka your near misses. So keep that in mind.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Kyle, thank you as always for a wonderful presentation. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye,
Goodbye.
everybody.